Kray twins, Ronnie and Reggie, ran the streets of London's East End in the swinging 1960s, and they made crime and decadence look good. Ronnie and Reggie Kray, better known as the Kray twins, remain perhaps the most infamous criminals in London's rogue gallery of gangsters throughout history. During the 1960s, they ruled the streets of London's rough and tumble East End, and while some crime lords kept their heads down and went about their business, the Kray twins never kept a low profile as they carried out everything from armed robberies to arson while hobnobbing with politicians and celebrities, as portrayed in the 2015 film Legend, before they were finally brought to justice. Ronnie and Reggie Kray were born within 10 minutes of each other on October 24, 1933 in Hoxton, London. From a young age, the twins had both a taste for violence and an apparently insatiable desire to become somebody. Like their grandfather, Jimmy Cannonball Lee, before them, the Kray brothers got their schooling in taking and giving a beating early on when they took up boxing. Both became amateur champions. Meanwhile, they displayed some of the differences in character that would inform their future lives as criminals. Reggie was a calmer, more disciplined boxer, while Ronnie showed early signs of his rabid desire to win no matter the cost. And soon the Kray twins took their fighting into the streets and got themselves into trouble. They started getting involved in gangland activity on the streets of the East End. As Reggie recounted in his memoir Born Fighter, when the Krays were 16, the cops charged them with grievous bodily harm after they attacked a rival gang outside of a dance hall. 2 years later, they were called for national service. Instead, in 1951, they assaulted a police officer and ended up spending a month in prison. While there, they acted so violently and rambunctiously, including dumping a latrine bucket on a sergeant, handcuffing a guard to the prison bars and setting their own beds on fire, that they were dishonorably discharged from the army soon after being conscripted. While making a name for themselves thanks to armed robbery and hijacking, they also got into the nightclub business, starting out by turning a small, rundown club in Bethnal Green into a respectable joint. And so they started their ascent of the London Underworld. As up-and-coming gangsters, the Kray brothers had a particular role model, the stylish boss of Britain's underworld, Billy Hill, who, according to The Guardian, controlled Soho in the 1950s. Like Hill, the Kray twins bought and paid for their more legitimate businesses with the proceeds from their criminal activities as they expanded into protection rackets, arson, armed robbery and sales of black market cigarettes. They also expanded their nightclub empire by purchasing a string of clubs in the East End as well as central London. But although the Krays had a semi-legitimate approach to making money, violence was still integral to how they operated. While both were capable of extreme violence, Ronnie's angry flare-ups grew uncontrollable. In 1954, members of a Maltese gang tried to collect protection money from the twins in their newly acquired Regal billiard hall. Ronnie's response was to attack them with a cutlass. Meanwhile, to legitimize their appearance despite their criminal activities, Ronnie and Reggie Kray maintained an elaborate facade by organizing donations to charity, building a reputation as generous philanthropists. But Ronnie's erratic behavior began to erode any notion of their respectability. According to the British Newspaper Archive, in 1956, he received 3 years in prison after slashing and stabbing a man with a bayonet. While Ronnie was away, Reggie developed their business and criminal interests. By 1957, he had opened the Krays' signature club, the Double R, and established their gang called the Firm. Meanwhile, in prison, Ronnie was struggling with his mental health. In 1958, he transferred to an asylum in Surrey, where doctors diagnosed him with paranoid schizophrenia and administered sedative drugs.